Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Do you remember this little fella? It's the Revell's 1:72 scale Panzer Kampfwagen 5 Ausführung G, the legendary Panther tank. Some of you ask me many questions about the build, but most of all, when I will make a diorama to it. Well, I will take a little break from aircraft models, and I think it will be a good idea to build a nice World War II diorama instead. For this project, I will use a base from MK.IV board, walls and ruins from Italeri, some additional military vehicles from Hasegawa, miniature soldier figures from Zvezda, and lots of scratch build items. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for not missing any new notifications. Alright, let's get started. Before I start working on the MK.IV board, I draw a picture. Every time I'm going to work on a project, I try to visualize how the project should look like. As a base, I will use modeling clay. You can also use construction foam or polystyrene. Modeling clay can be shaped to any form you want, and it dries in 2 days. I formed the clay into a needed shape. In this diorama, the ruins will be placed on a small hill over the Panther. Of course, I will still compare the diorama to the model. Therefore, I will use an old unfinished tank model. Now I cut out the excessive clay and clean the base with water. The base is ready for painting. First, I paint the edges with a black semi-gloss color. Now I paint the ground of the diorama with a dark brown and lime brown colors. The ruins are painted with a dark grey paint. Now I paint the ruins with oil paints. I'm using a lot of grey shades by mixing white and black color. Oil paints are very useful. I'm imitating moss by using dark and light green. Before I weather the ruins, I added a layer of clear varnish. I will use a dark oil wash to highlight shadows on joints. Now I remove the oil wash with a cotton swab. I glue the ruins on the base with PVA glue. Don't worry, the ruins are not finished yet, there is a lot of work to do. I fill the inner space of the ruins with modeling clay. The whole space will be full of rubble, destroyed supporting beams and glass. I have to create these items myself from scratch. Now I add a thick layer of PVA glue. I use small stones and dirt from nearby construction site. I took out the biggest stones. Now I use a pipette and glue the stones with a mix of water and glue. Now I take a flat paintbrush and paint the stones with a dark gray paint. As you can see, the video footage is getting darker. It's because the weather outside is horrible. From now on, I will use artificial light. The Italeri sandbags are not that bad. I paint them with a light beige color, add a layer of dry brush, and weather them with oil washes. To remove the excessive wash, I use a cotton swab. I mentioned before that I need to create lots of items from scratch. I will work with balsa wood, oak veneer, toothpicks and matches. For better join, you can use super glue or PVA glue. I created support beams with floor planks and window shutters. I don't build diorama items so often, but it doesn't look that bad. The wooden parts are painted with a mix of ochre, burnt sienna and burnt umber oil paint. After drying out, I glue the wooden parts to the ruins. To cover the whole ruins with concrete and stone dust, I use a mix of pigments. Now I will work on the grass application. I have a lots of spring, summer and autumn wildgrass in my stash. So I probably use a mix of everything to create a new and old grass combination. First, I apply a layer of PVA glue. The grass won't be everywhere. The tank tracks are already in the clay, so it will be easy to follow. Now, I put each wildgrass sample in my homemade static grass applicator. Before I start applying the grass, I put the needle somewhere sideways. The PVA glue has water in it and is therefore conductive. All I have to do is turn on the electricity with the help of the batteries and I can start with the applying. There is a lot of excessive wild grass over the whole diorama. After the PVA glue dries out, the grass is removed and it can be used in another project. Before I continue on the vegetation, I create a fence from matches and oak veneer. The fence will be placed close to the road, so I drill out holes to the base with a micro drill. It's better to use PVA glue. I like it more than cyanoacrylate superglue. I will create a destroyed fence for the soldiers. I rather play with the details a bit. Some ideas strike me during the build. Now I paint the fence with mix of oil paints and weather them with pigments. The fence is finished, so I can start to glue the vegetation. First, I glue the flowers and paint them with the yellow and white paints. I also glue a lot of wild tall plants and weeds. You can also reach for moss and small roots from the nearby forest. My supplies also includes plants, shrubs and trees for train modelers from North. The diorama still looks a bit boring, so I add more shrubs, weeds and a spruce tree. Now I can glue the Panther tank to the diorama, but don't worry, it's not finished yet. I have the feeling that something is still missing, so I create some items from scratch. I decided to build by-wire barricades from toothpicks. The wooden barricades are painted with oil paints. Now I take a silicone thread and slowly wind them around the wooden parts. For gluing, I use superglue. I imitate rusted barbed wire with a light rust pigment from AK. I will also place a temporary machine gun nest between the ruins, so I create an ammunition crate from oak veneer. I will also place camouflage tarpaulins into the ruins. I simply create them from aluminium foil. The small diorama will include a BMW motorcycle with a sidecar. I paint all small details with my Chromex airbrush, add a layer of varnish and wash them with oil washes. Next, I weathered the motorcycle with a European earth pigment. To seal the pigments, I added a layer of pigment fixer. The last step is to paint the soldier miniature figures. I also have lots of soldier figures from Revell and Italeri. I'm not that experienced with painting figures, so if they look horrible, I want to apologize. I paint the figures with Mr. Color paints, add a layer of clear varnish, and weather them with oil washes. For painting faces, I use tempera water diluted paints. The temperas don't adhere on a shiny varnish surface. For better applying, I add a drop of cleaning detergent. When the figures are finished, I seal them with a layer of matte varnish. At the end, I weathered the figures with pigments. Finally, I can place the small scratch-built parts to the diorama. First, I glue the barricades and the ammunition crate. Next, I glue the MK.IV machine gun, radio station, and the reconnaissance and machine gun crew. There was not much room left for other details. The BMW motorcycle just came out of space. I will place 2 fuel barrels beside the motorcycle. To cover any imperfections, I made a small strategic map from paper. Now I continue on gluing the motorcyclist figure and the tank crew. I will add more small items for the tank crew such as tool case, 75mm shells for the Panther tank gun, and fuel canisters. At the end of the build, I glued the tank commander with binoculars and a traffic sign. At the last step, I can remove the masking tape from the MDF board and the Panther diorama is finished. What can I say? As an aircraft modeler, this build was very challenging for me, but I enjoyed it very much. But I have to admit that in order to further improve my skills, I can't stay with only one type of models. I have to be much versatile. I hope you liked this video. Please subscribe to my channel, like, or if you want to ask me something about my hobby or this diorama build, leave me a comment. I will answer your question. Also, if you want to follow my work, you can join me on Facebook or Instagram. There is a link in the description. Thank you for watching and see you next time.